Okay, we now welcome on to the show someone who has been at the centre of a media firestorm for the last week. We want to get you on the show and talk about the whole thing. So Chris Dekker, Generation Liberty Campus Coordinator at QUT in Queensland. Now, let's start from the start with this story, because Generation Liberty, they get like O Week's coming up, all the universities are going back. Generation Liberty is going to have a store where people could sign up. That was all, looking pretty good. It's looking good into a lot of universities across Australia. Then what happened?
Yes, so on the 24th of January, which was Friday, we were informed from QUT after we had filled out like our paperwork details for an O-Week stall, including like insurance and all that kind of hoo-ha to jump through, that we didn't meet the QUT Guild's standards. We sent out an email within the hour, and then we got a automated reply from the person saying that they would be on leave until the 5th of February, which was funny given they'd emailed us half an hour earlier. But then fortunately on Monday we got a follow-up email saying that that there would be no appeals process. That they had referred it to a committee, and at the Guild we apparently don't meet their standards, whatever they are. When we were booking the form, I have the market day registration.
There is a prop for people listening at home. There's a very well filled out form. Yeah. Every box is checked, which I like.
So going through this, their terms and conditions is very small. It's literally just this page here. There's really nothing that I think that we would have broken. Under promotional material, it says, anything that can be deemed discriminatory or offensive is not allowed on campus. But all of ours is pretty just.
We like freedom of speech and free markets.
It's nothing outrageous. So it was really just, I think, the consensus of the Guild. Later on Facebook, after the article in the Australian broke, the president of the QUT Guild, Olivia Brum, is basically making out like we're lying, and that initially said that we were applying for an O-Week booth, and then said it's only for. Market Week is only for external organisations, because we were applying for both. Market Week is only for external organisations and clubs, and the external orgs have to provide products and services to students, which we do. You pay $10 and you get a cool little goodie bag with some books, and I think we got temporary tattoos and yeah, and like nice bottle card openers. Yeah, it seems really cool.
14-year-old birthday parties up on its neck. But so who is this guild? Like, are they students? Are they university administrators?
Right,
like, what's their deal?
So they're the student elected body, and basically they had an election last year that was kind of put together last minute because their constitutional reforms failed, and their constitution had even said at the electoral tribunal that it was written really awfully, and a lawyer had written it. And now they have to run new democratic student elections in March because most of the positions were illegally contested, basically.
So they said to you your values don't align with those of QUT. What values are they? And what do you think? How does that make you feel when you know that the Social Alternative is allowed to have a stall, and they are on record as saying they're a Trotskyist organisation, and obviously Trotsky has this awful history. They're okay to have a stall, but we're not.
They've even said some, allegedly anti-Semitic, depending on who you ask, remarks.
Yes, like the long history of socialism. They're not big fans of Jews, like traditionally going back through history.
Perhaps not. No, putting it lightly. But our values are, we're not a homogenous organisation. There's plenty of people who have internal disagreements, but generally it's freedom of speech, democracy, the rule of law, political freedoms, these sorts of things that unite kind of conservatives and libertarians and people on the centre right without.
And I'd say people on the left as well. Like freedom of speech and stuff like that has long been like a left-wing thing as well.
Well, I'm considered the lefty in the Generation Liberty office. I'm a libertarian. I came from the left, so yeah. It's meant to unite us and kind of educate younger people who perhaps don't hear about those sorts of things in class anymore, and they also get to hear from influential lecturers and academics and politicians and that sort of thing. So it's really a good opportunity and great value for money at $10.
Yeah,
Can I
there we
just
go.
say?
Natural
Just
salesman.
put the banner up on the bottom of the screen for people watching at home. But see, this is the thing. So the University Guild comes out and they say, this market we thing, it's only for social clubs and stuff like that. We don't let organisations like that. But you can't ban Generation Liberty, but allow Socialist Alternative to be around.
It's registered clubs and external organisations at the market week, and we were fine with being the latter because we're not registered at the university. But yeah, and later on, they tried telling us that they weren't going to allow, they chose to not allow political organisations on campus. And I mean, we're not a political party, we're quasi-political at best, in the same way that, Amnesty International or Cancer Council are, who frequently show up on campus. And there's nothing wrong with that. But once again, these are quasi-political nature because they're, topics that people have opinions about. But yeah, in terms of, not allowing us, they had no notice of not allowing political external organisations on campus. And, this form, I don't think we have it here on this particular one, but a form attached to this basically saying that to show you how outdated these forms are was their target audience is Gen Y. And I mean, that's that's like people over 25 now. Yeah. So they really need to get their act together if they are going to just pick and choose what type of external organizations.
Yeah, there's just like a logo on the bottom saying share us on MySpace. But this seems to be a problem long-standing with... Yeah, they've got Napster. This seems to be a long-standing problem with QUT because people, long-time listeners of the show / long-time followers of Australian politics would know QUT came up, I think it was 2012 or maybe a bit later, when Callum Thwaites was one of the students that got embroiled because of this freak out on Facebook over what was not written in a discussion because a white person was kicked out of a Indigenous-only computer lab. So, is there a systemic bias problem at QUT? Is this something that keeps on coming up, or is this just where all universities are at?
I think you'll find it across a lot of public institutions. It's not necessarily something that's inherently been deliberately seeded. I just think it's something that over time happens when you need to put these kind of virtue signalling, policies in place to appease everyone. The QUT Guild is, it's a student elected body, so I guess they have the argument that that's what people elected them for. But I think when we talk about kind of cancel culture or left-wing bias on campus, sometimes it's overt, but at QUT it seemingly is behind closed doors or subvert. So when I have lectures, I don't have these crazy University of Sydney lectures where, they tell you, I'm going to make you a communist by the end of this or something like that. Because we don't have a humanities department, which is fantastic, by the way. They got rid of that like a decade ago. But it's more the subvert messaging that for people coming direct out of high school, I'm learning about topics that some of them, I know a fair bit of background reading on. But if you're coming direct from high school and, that you're listening to a professor, a PhD, with, someone you greatly respect on an area or a topic that you're greatly interested about, you should be hearing both sides of the story. So I think that, the overt bias that you hear about in university, to me, I don't care about that. Everyone's got an opinion. It's like people who complain about Sky News bias. It's like, if you can't see the bias on Sky News, get your head wrong,
Yeah. And if you don't like the bias, then, change the channel.
Well, and that's the
There are so many channels.
That's the thing about QUT. You could, if you're a private organisation, discriminate between which types of organisations you're going to have on your campus. But the QUT Guild's funded by student services fees, which are they're compulsorily acquired from students. You have no option but to pay them if you want to get your marks and graduate. Or even, I think some universities prevent you from even being able to use library resources until you've paid them. And that would be fair if they were just for facilities, but these go to student guilds, which aren't voluntary.
So just on that, so they're meant to represent the students, these people. What has been the reaction of your fellow students to this?
It's been pretty divided. I think there's certainly a lot of people who just don't care, which is fair, and that's kind of why I argue for voluntary SAF, because there are a lot of people who just don't care about politics, and that's fine. But there are people on both sides who just say that, oh, you're lying, or oh, Generation Liberty's lying, and I think if from telling you the full story, it seems that I don't know if they're lying, but they certainly haven't got their act together if they don't. It's a very mixed reaction. I think the left seems to keep trying to attack me online and be like, oh, we got you. I typed out this giant novel with, it basically may as well have, be an audio book. It's that long. And it's like, I live rent-free in your head. Like, I don't have to reply to any of this stuff.
Yeah. The singular thrill of getting a long comment like that and not reading it. It's just like knowing they're out there.
Too long didn't read.
Can't wait for this response, and it never comes.
Well, I've just been replying to QUT Girl president with just photos of a beer on like Friday and Saturday. It's like, I'm not reading this. I'm doing better things.
All right, fantastic. One of the better things you have been doing is that you had your first appearance on Sky News, which means that all three of us, we're now Sky News affiliates, I would say. We're people that have been on.
Yeah.
So
he just bagged as well after going on it.
Sorry?
And he just bagged them as well after going on it.
But
please let me back on.
Yeah, exactly. So what your first time on TV, what was it like?
I think daunting at first, but I don't have a lot of fears. It was not to brag, but
What's that
it was a very short appearance. I gave very long answers to the extent that I think that Chris Kenny was like, all right, let's wrap this up and get this guy off the air. And also before, because I got called like half an hour before I was due to appear, and we had to run down. Roscom quickly gave me a razor, and I was in the bathroom with water going like, and then Gideon sat me down in the private room and was just like, basically simulated what it's...
It's like a meeting room for those at home who don't understand.
Yeah, no, it's not a private dance room. It's just a room with a phone in it that we take quiet calls in.
Yeah. Oh, the quiet room, right?
Quiet room. Right.
An open plan office. Carry on.
Yes.
Gone right, and we will get this back on track.
Okay. Well, yeah, so and then Gideon just sat me down in the room and basically just was like, went through all the types of answers, and he's like, oh, you seem pretty good for your first go. I didn't even need to give you a beer. So, I think...
Gideon School of Media.
Yeah, give him a beer.
All right, well, he's about to be on this show, so we'll address that particular part of the media strategy with him. Yeah. My one was like, when I was on the Bolt Report last, they put my Twitter handle up on the screen, but I forgot to turn off my phone. So for the entire interview, my phone was just vibrating with people just like either following or replying to tweets. And I was like, very hard to lose yourself into a TV interview and continue conversation with like a constant reminder that there are people watching you at all times.
They've on other media appearances, I think on American TV, there was one time where they were like interviewing a journalist on Skype, like who'd like a whistleblower or something, and then someone else kept like Skyping him, like some like dude in his basement with like a hairy chest or something.
Dude, you're on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, fantastic. So, Generation Liberty, become a member if you're at QUT. It's apparently become a lot harder for you to become a Generation Liberty member, so make sure you are going to the IPA website, liking us on Facebook, Instagram, and following the YouTube channel, and make sure you're getting involved because it's an awesome thing to do. All right, Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, mate.